I don't feel like I can get into a relationship until I have my own place.
Dating when you're living at home is hard.
Because I don't want to bring a girl back to my parents' house. Episode 5.
Welcome back, guys. Episode 5 of the Way It Goes podcast with myself, Dan, and my co-host, Ryan. Today, we are going to be really putting the world to rights. We're going to be talking about something that everyone under 35 is thinking right now. And that is, so, when do houses become affordable?
Here's the fun part, they don't.
Yeah, that's where we're at right now.
That's kind of where
and we're also going to be talking about the having kids debate. Like, some people want kids, some people don't, and kind of how that affects the dating scene and things like that. So, yeah, a bit of an interesting one. I guess this is quite a serious topic, I guess you could say, but we're going to try and make it as interesting and fun as possible.
Yeah. Our way it goes spin on it.
Our way it goes spin, yeah. I mean, let's be honest. Let's just get this straight out of the way. We're both approaching 30 and neither of us own our own property yet. And we do know quite a few people, our friends and so on, who do own their own properties, whether that be, through career, whether it be through other circumstances. So there's definitely a bit of a divide, and it depends on kind of what situation you're in life for sure.
Yes, yeah.
But I've put together some stats that I found online, and some sort of headlines that I think are really interesting.
Is this the first podcast we've done research for?
Yeah. This is the first one where we've actually...
Well, no, I never want to say we know what we're talking about because we don't.
Absolutely not.
But we've actually got some facts and figures.
Yeah, facts and figures. So, and then afterwards, we're going to be rounding it off with another dilemma today, and also, of course, a quote right at the end to finish us off. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate all your feedback, your comments, all the usual stuff.
Find us on so much.
Yeah, 100%. So find us on socials: TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Yep.
At twig.podcast. We're the same across all platforms. Comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Something slightly off topic, but do you have any idea how many times I've been asked? What is it? Twig. I think.
Do you know what? I kind of.
That was it. My mum was someone was asking about it, and my mum was trying to tell them what it was, and she went, "That's the way it is." And I was like, no. I was like, no, it's fine.
The thing is that I didn't like Twig. I didn't like the abbreviation. I wanted the Way It Goes podcast, but it just wasn't available. Like, anything close to that wasn't really available across all three platforms, and I wanted to keep it consistent. So
yeah, of course,
it is what it is. We've ended up with it, and now that we've discussed it so much,
it's just the way it goes.
It's just the way it goes.
Yes. Episode 5. We got one in 4. We got one in 3. We got one in 2. We got one in 1.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have to get it's like name dropping the film. It's like, there it is. There we go. Cool. Yeah. So, when do houses become affordable? I have been in a position for quite a while now, which I'm very lucky, that I have a deposit together for a house, and not a large deposit, but a deposit
enough
that
to
is
get you one.
Enough to get me a property, although it's just not affordable by myself. To go and move out and live in. I would literally skint myself, all my savings gone, and then I'd be in a situation where I'm like living paycheck to paycheck, really struggling.
You see it more
of the
and more
outgoings.
common these days that people just move out with people just because it's just not viable.
It's just not viable. So, in terms of, let's just talk a few broad statistics in the UK right now. So, 1 in 6 adults are supposedly in what's deemed to be poor quality housing. So that's housing that potentially has issues with damp or mold or dilapidation or
that's crazy that's even a thing.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously a lot of those people are going to probably be in council homes and things like that, on benefits, whatever it might be. And it's really sad that it's come to that. The quality of it is so poor.
It's frustrating to see because you see it every day. Like, the amount of people that I know that have had issues with council housing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you see it in the papers all the time as well. All the newspapers and
some of these people have kids, and I'm just like, legitimately, you've got black mold in your house. And you've got kids. That is a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah, it's detrimental to your health.
It really does baffle me that's
even plausible.
Just even plausible, even okay. I mean, obviously they're thankful that they've got roofs over their heads, but it's still it's still dangerous for
Yeah.
the person
Yeah,
inhabiting
yeah.
the house.
And in terms of actually affordable housing, in terms of like people who are buying private housing, like us, for example, we're at a position now where mortgage rates are at a 15-year high. And that is very unfortunate timing for the likes of us. And like I say, like, it is plausible, it is feasible to do it, especially if you've got a partner or a friend or someone who you can buy and move in with. But obviously that always gets a little bit complicated. Like, if it's fair enough if it's a partner, like you're looking to get married, have kids, whatever. But if it's like a friend, sometimes that can create a complicated situation. I think is not always ideal. So I don't know. It's a bit of a shady ground.
I think for me, I'm a very honest person. I won't take anyone for a ride. It is equal. You know, I've always said that if I move out with someone, whether that be a partner, whether that be a friend, it will always be equal. I will never not pull my weight.
Yeah.
And I think nowadays it's so scary because it's such a financial commitment to the people that you're moving in with or the partner that you're with. It's such a financial commitment that I think a lot of people are just terrified to make it.
Yeah.
And that's fair. Like, that's so fair. Yeah. Like, I would be terrified to drop like 20, 30 grand on a deposit, like a joint deposit, and then be like, yeah, cool, by the way, I'm moving out, you got to pay the rest of it.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, crazy.
Yeah, it's just not ideal, is it? But in terms of like, so my position right now, I'm single, I'm on my own. And likewise for yourself. So we're in a situation where we're like, if we did want to move out and we didn't want to go with friends, we'd have to buy property on our own. And this is a statistic that I don't think you've read that yet, which is going to frighten you. And it's probably going to frighten a lot of our listeners. So the average house price for a family-sized home, so we're probably talking like, I don't know, 2-3 bedroom home.
Actively terrified, but okay.
Yeah. In terms of, like, I guess not necessarily rural areas, but kind of areas closer to the city. I guess kind of areas where we live, outer city areas.
Yeah.
The average house price is around 350 grand for that sort of size of home. And your salary would need to be around 70 grand a year to be able to efficiently and comfortably afford that solo.
That's crazy, isn't it?
And the average wage in the UK is probably about half that, if not less than half that.
Yeah.
So that is just not feasible. Like,
it's so, I guess the only way I can describe it is frustrating. It's so frustrating from my perspective, and this is again purely from my perspective, think that that's not being looked at.
No. House prices have only gone up, and that's great for homeowners. That's great for people who already are in property, or that have inherited property, which is probably the more common way that people get into homes now. But it's not great for the first-time buyer. And we've had stuff like the Help to Buy ISA, and we've had stuff like the Lifetime ISA, and shared ownership, and there's a few different options of getting into homes.
I read though that some of those Help to Buy ISAs are only on new builds.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's for all of them.
In certain circumstances, you have to look at the terms and conditions of your own one.
Check your terms and conditions, guys.
Yeah, there are some. I know the one that I've got is not. It's not new build only, but I think it's only up to 200k or 250k outside of the city, and then within London boroughs, I think it goes up to like 300 or 350, just because the prices are so much higher.
And that's not enough.
It's still not enough. No,
it's still not enough.
No, it's still not enough, and.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's really frustrating as you know, like young adults going into their 30s to know that you could still be living with your parents when you're in your 30s.
That's considered normal now.
That's considered normal. Yeah. And that's not to say that it shouldn't be considered normal.
Of course
it's
not.
Absolutely fine. You're growing your own way. But the fact that it's not looked into in the sense of it feels like it's not even considered. Cool, we need to make affordable housing for people.
No.
I mean, you got to look at like the rate of homelessness.
Yeah.
is just jumping up and up and up and up and up.
Yeah.
And every day now, I don't watch the news for the very specific reason is that every time I turn on the news, it just pisses me off.
Yeah.
I'm just watching people who claim to know what they're doing, not know what they're doing, and play with people's lives. So I don't watch the news.
Yeah.
But from what I see walking out on the street every day, something's got to be done. Something has to be done, because housing and people trying to find houses, be it in the situation that we're in, from a position of, I'm trying to think of the right word, but from a position of the fact that we are lucky enough to privilege. That's the word that I was looking for. Position that we're in, position of privilege, where we have the ability to go, cool, I know if I save up, I can do this.
Yeah.
Some people don't have that, and that is the thing that needs to be looked at.
Yeah.
That is 100%. The thing that it doesn't matter about me. I'm okay. I can, again, eventually financially sort myself out.
Yeah.
The people that can't, they're the people that, and I hate to use the word, the government should be looking at.
Yeah. And I think as well, we're kind of in a situation where people get stuck in a renting loop because they can't afford a deposit on a house. One of the biggest barriers to entry for most people, and again, we're lucky that we are paid reasonably well, and we've got other stuff going on, so we can save up these deposits and stuff. But there are a lot of people who are living paycheck to paycheck who can't afford that deposit.
Yeah.
And so that is a massive barrier to entry. Even with something like a 5% mortgage, it's still a big barrier to entry.
And I think one of the biggest fears around renting is the fact that you can be turfed out.
Yeah, and not only that, but you're stuck in that loop then. It's a bit like leasing a car. Like, there are benefits to not owning that property, but at the same time, you're never going to be able to save. If you're spending like $1,000 a month on rent, it's just not feasible.
I think my biggest fear around renting isn't necessarily the cost, because like I said, it would be a struggle. 100% it would be a struggle. That's not to say that I've got hundreds of pounds sitting around. Like, it would absolutely be a paycheck to paycheck struggle. But my biggest fear is the fact that I could get an eviction notice through the door and it just be
tough
cool,
luck, see you
2
later.
weeks, see you later.
Yeah, I mean, that's not the exact situation that we was in at my old place, but it's a similar situation, because it got to a point where we would charge what I would have considered a reasonable price for our rent at that home in that area, to the point where all of a sudden, because it was a London borough, all of a sudden the prices really started hiking. You had more connections going into Central and stuff like that. So it became a point where the landlord basically was like, I can't afford to keep doing this at this price. I need to really hike the price, and it was then unaffordable for us. So it's like, cool, now we need to look at plan B, and we've not only got a few months to do that. So that, it does put you in a tricky situation.
And I mean, that's not to say that every landlord is going to turf you out with like 2 weeks notice. Some you can get, there is more often than not lovely people that own places that go, hey, look, I'm sorry, I need to bring this money up. And the fact that, and I hope this is the situation for a lot of people, but I don't know, that their landlord would come to them and be like, look, this is the situation. What do you want to do? Because I need to do this. Again, more often than not, I don't know if that is the case, but I would like to think in an ideal world that it is. But yeah, that's the biggest fear for me, is just like, living paycheck to paycheck and not being able to do anything. Because like,
not really being able to enjoy anything because you've got to focus on the bills.
And the thing is, like, you want to at least be able to still go out and still enjoy your life. And if you're living with that sense of, I just don't have the funds to do that, but at least I have a roof over my head. I mean, of course, at least you have a roof over your head, but like, it's one of those things that it kind of sucks the fun out of owning your own place.
And I think that's the sad reality for a lot of people in the UK at the moment is, they might be able to afford to live and to have their own property and to put food on the table, but that's where it ends. They can't afford the holidays they want to go on. They can't afford to go out and have meals and catch up with people, because they just have to pump money into bills all the time.
And I mean, some people make the most out of it. Some people make the most out of it by being like, cool, I'm the hub. come to me, we'll just chill, we'll have a good time.
Yeah.
And you know, to those people, more power to them, because that's a great way to combat I guess the struggle is the only thing the word I can think of, but that's a great way to combat that. And you know, more power to those people. Like that's a great way to go forward. But for some people, it's just not that feasible. It's not, you can't do
it's
things.
not.
Or there's restrictions in the area, or there's restrictions to the place that you're living in and don't allow you to be able to do that. So you know, in an ideal world, housing would be affordable for everyone. Unfortunately, we don't live in an ideal world.
No.
So it is one of those things where personally, I feel like you have to really fight tooth and nail to get a place to live. And it shouldn't be like that.
It shouldn't. And again, like, I preface this with, like, I know that we are in a lucky position. I know there are people out there who don't have a place to live and things like that. But from a sort of a generalised perspective of people in our age bracket, anywhere between, let's say, 18 when you first become an adult up to sort of 30, 35, I think a lot of people who... We've seen a massive rise in mental health issues in that age group, right? And I think partially due to COVID, like we discussed in the previous episode, partially due to just environmental stuff that's going on in the world right now, and the way sort of the social stigmas are and whatever it might be. But I think a big part of it potentially may be this as well. It might be the fact that these people are stuck in a situation where they feel like they're not making progress, they're not able to start their families, they feel trapped with family. And again, that's not a terrible position to be in by any stretch of the imagination, but you don't get the freedom that you feel you need as you develop at that age. There comes a point where you want to cut ties with the family home and you want to start your own base. You want your own space to grow as a person, to start your family, to, you know, start a business in peace or whatever it might be. Like you need that space and you need that freedom. And people are kind of going to desperate times to get that. And I think what probably doesn't help that as well is that if you have gone off to uni, for example, and lived in uni halls, even though it is kind of a bit of a communal thing,
you still have your own space.
Yeah, you still have a sense of freedom. And then you end up going home and you know that for years you're going to be on the grind because you're starting from ground zero. Because, you know, all of your other mates, they might have got a job already. They might be in an apprenticeship. They might be earning big bucks. And you've come home. Yeah, you've got a fancy degree. But you've got to start off with a basic intern job or whatever that barely pays. By the time you know it, you're 30, you're still living at home. You can barely afford to move out.
And I'm going to say it, mum, close your ears. You get to a point where you outgrow your home and you need the space. You need your own space and in your own environment. To exist. Like I've always had this dream of eventually owning my own place. And I'm not one of these people that are I guess I'm afraid of renting in a sense, but I'm not afraid to have to rent. If that is the path. But from like a perspective, I've always wanted my own space. I've always wanted to be able to, you know, come into a house, decorate the place and, you know, have my pop figures up, have like all my collectibles and stuff like that up, and just have an environment that I can walk into and go, home. This is home. And it's one of those things that I don't see happening in the near future until something drastically happens with the housing market.
I feel like it's also a bit degrading as well to be having to ask parents permission to do things when you're nearly 30. You know,
I mean, I don't.
No, I know. Obviously, like
I know there's some people that do.
Like obviously you're lucky in that your family gives you a lot of freedom.
Yeah,
but I think
I'm very lucky.
Yeah, I think there are probably a lot of people out there, us not necessarily included, but that will be at home and, you know, they're nearly 30 or they're in their late 20s, whatever, and they're in a situation where they still have to... Even silly little things like saying, oh, by the way, I'm going out tonight to XYZ, and they say, oh, what time are you going to be home? You shouldn't have to explain yourself in that way when you're that age. Like, fair enough when you're 16.
Of course.
But not when you're, like, you know...
You're nearly 30.
Not like a decade later, you know? So... I think there's definitely a mental health impact there as well because...
Oh, God, yeah. Like, imagine being... I mean, I can use me as an example. I'm nearly 30. I'm a year off, or just over a year off. And this is touching on a different topic, but I don't feel like I can get into a relationship until I have my own place.
Dating when you're living at home is hard.
Because I don't want to bring a girl back to my parents' house.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. Because it's for me, and it shouldn't, but for me, it feels embarrassing.
Yeah, I think that will change. I think because it's becoming more common, I think it's going to become more socially acceptable for that to be a thing. But it's still not nice.
It's like, hey, you can't afford a house too? Yeah, me too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're in the same boat. Don't worry. Parents are asleep, but let's sneak you in. I think it's going to just become the norm, I guess. But it's not nice, is it? It's not a nice experience.
Not at all.
Like, you expect it when you're, a late teenager, or you're just, early 20s maybe. Yeah. But when you're sort of mid 20s, late 20s, early 30s, you don't expect to still be in that situation where you're having to.
And I mean,
do that.
For those people who did manage it, well done. Power to you.
Oh, 100%, like the people who have got their own places.
Yeah,
at this
well
age,
done. Like,
fair play. Like, you've obviously
regardless of your journey to get that house, whether it be inherited, whether it be money that you've saved, money you've earned, power to you, because like you've obviously gone through you would have gone through some sort of struggle to get that place.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no doubt in my mind.
There's no two ways about that.
But like, you've got to pat yourself on the back and go, even with the way the world is these days in terms of money and costs and inflation and all that jazz, you've got to be proud of yourself for even getting that far.
Yeah.
Regardless of the situation it comes from.
Yeah. So leaning into that a little bit, I've got on screen here, I will put this up in the edit on YouTube as well. So if you're watching on YouTube, I'll put this graph up on screen for you to see. So this is some stats I found online, like a survey result that shows the age group of homeowners in England. And this is data from last year, 2022, by age group. So at the moment, I mean, basically the biggest and most prominent bar on screen is 65 or over. That is the majority.
Blimey.
The majority, by a long margin as well, 35% of homeowners in the UK are over 65.
Jesus.
Because they're from a generation where even if they...
The house was like $8,000.
Yeah,
but then again,
obviously inflation. Yeah, but at the same time, it was still a lot easier to go and get a mortgage from a bank and so on in those times. And you could just get like a guarantor or whatever and get it sorted out quite easily. There weren't as many barriers to entry. There weren't as high deposits.
Plus jobs were I mean, people will argue that it's not, but looking from the way my mum and dad talk about jobs were a lot easier to get.
Yeah, and also there wasn't as many sort of background checks that you have to go through in terms of finances. Yeah. It was a lot less of this.
Can you afford it? Cool. Here's $1,000.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and obviously the house prices were significantly lower in most of the areas at that time, even rural areas now, but especially in the city areas, like the major cities like London, Birmingham, and even the same thing probably goes for the States and various other countries. But yeah, 35%, which is the vast majority by a long margin, by pretty much halfway, 65 or over. And basically the bar goes down and down and down and down as expected as we get younger. So less than 10% of homeowners in England are under 35. Less than 10%.
So what you're telling me, Dan, is I've got 5 more years to get a house.
Yeah, but even then you're still only in the 10%.
This is true.
That's a crazy statistic.
Yeah.
Like when you consider... But this is the thing. When we're talking about inheritance and stuff like that, that goes to show the vast majority of people who are younger who are going to be getting property now are inherited from that 65 and over age bracket.
I'd be interested to see that with that 10%, if there is another question that was asked to that 10%,
like a breakdown of how did you attain that house?
They attain
well, when I looked into the rest of the data, the biggest barrier to entry when surveyed was deposit, which I can understand. Yeah,
because the thing is, everything's so pricey these days.
Yeah, who's got 40k?
How have you got the money to, like, even savings? It's so hard to save at the moment.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong, you can do it.
Yeah, but with cost of living,
it's so hard to save these days.
Yeah. But obviously, it's one of those things. I suppose it's circumstantial. A lot of people will just do it. and hardcore save. And there are things that you can do. There are obviously money saving tips out there. There's things that you can do. Stop going out as much. Stop spending on luxuries as much. You know, make sure that you keep switching jobs to get a higher salary, whatever it might be. There are things that can be done, and it depends on your situation. I suppose a lot of the time it's going to be a more desperate situation for people if they're looking to have kids.
God, yeah.
That's going to be a big thing. If you're like looking to start a family, then you're going to be in a position where you really need to start pushing to move out.
Oh, he's segueing.
We are segueing.
He's segueing.
We love a good segue.
We love a good segue.
So let's talk about that then. So having kids. Now, again, this is something that it very much, you might be thinking, why have we gone into this based off of the last conversation? Well, I think the amount of people having kids when they're older is also increasing because of this.
We had a conversation about this when we was talking about topics to share.
Yeah.
And I think we both said that, like, with the way things are now, having kids younger puts so much more pressure on yourself.
100%, yeah.
To earn more money, to not only afford a place for you all to live, but to afford the children that you have. Unlike for me, I would say the majority of my being, I guess, doesn't want kids. I would argue that I'm kind of still on the fence. It is kind of a sense of maybe if I met the right person that broke me out of that. But in the position that I'm in now, I can't see myself having children.
Yeah.
Purely because I don't think I'd make a good parent. And that's not like I think I would be bad to the child or whatever like that. I just don't have what's the word? I guess I don't have that parental, like,
you don't have that natural instinct in you, or you feel like you don't.
I don't have that parental instinct,
which could potentially change if you were to find yourself in that
exactly.
position.
And that's the reason that I don't think that I'm 100% dead set never having kids.
Yeah.
At the point that I am in life at the moment, absolutely not.
Yeah, fair enough.
But it is definitely one of those things where you have to be in the right position to know for definite if you're going to have kids in the future or not.
Yeah.
I mean, some people are dead set. Some people are dead set. They know they don't want kids. And that's my leaning at the moment.
Yeah.
I kind of look at all these things that I can do while I'm single and without dependence.
Yeah.
And I would love to be able to share that with someone, but again, without dependence.
Yeah.
Because having to pay for all the accessories that children need, all of the things that children need in the current climate, just makes me go, yeah, nah.
So in terms of dating pool, though, that is very limiting as a guy.
Yeah.
Like, if you decide, and you know, I'm in the opposite boat. I know that I do want kids.
Yeah.
Not now, but I do eventually, and that's something that I've always known. And I just think it's, you know, like I said before, I'm big on love, I'm big on family, I'm big on companionship, and I feel like there's no greater way to express your love for someone than to create a little person and have that person share the best bits of both of you. And that, I think, is something really special, and I want that eventually for myself, but as you say, right now, not for me.
The world doesn't need another little me running around. Does not need it.
Carnage.
I know what I was like in primary school. The world does not need that.
Plus, I mean, you know, you look at how like cramped areas are here at the moment and all that kind of thing. Like,
and in all honesty, I do not think, this is just for me, I guess. I'm sure there'll be other people out there that think the same way as me, but the world is not the place that I would like to be raising kids in.
Yeah, there's
the
definitely
current state of the world. I would not want to raise kids in.
There's definitely an element of that.
World.
And I do think this is going to sound a bit strange, maybe, but I do think to myself as well. Like when I have really low days, or I think to myself, like, you know, I'm really struggling in life at the moment, or anything like that. I think it wasn't my choice to be put here. Like,
yeah,
you're just born into the world, and you don't have any choice in that matter. So you
100%.
then just have to learn to, live and get up and go to work and all that good stuff. And that's,
don't get me wrong, I'm thankful for the life that I've been
grateful.
given.
Yeah, so grateful. And you should never take it for granted. But I always think then, if I were to have a child and they were to go through those same burdens and feel the same pain that I felt in certain areas of life, that's really hard because they didn't choose that.
Yeah.
And that's a bit philosophical, I know.
I think it's that like teenage angst side of thing. It's like, I didn't ask to be put here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we've all gone through it.
Yeah,
we've all done
there,
it.
yeah,
we've all been like, shouting and screaming at our parents. I didn't ask to be put here. I know I did.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, of course I did. Yeah. It's just what you go through, isn't it, when you're growing up? But yeah, I think it's a tough one, isn't it? But okay, so definitely limits your pool of dating for sure. Where if you hard set don't want kids, that definitely limits your pool of dating.
I know. And maybe ever slightly off topic, but I know when I've been going through dating apps, I will, if I see wants, like for Hinge maybe, wants kids.
Mm-hmm. Is that like an does that put you off instantly, or?
It doesn't. It does to the sense that I know that I'm very much on the fence in terms of I'm swaying more to not wanting kids than I am to wanting kids. And from a personal perspective, I wouldn't want that person who knows they want kids to have to decide me or a future.
Fair, yeah.
So regardless of whether they are my type or whether I am attracted to them or whether they share the things that I would be, interested in making a relationship out of that, it's no. Because I wouldn't.
Fair enough.
I know if I was in their shoes, I wouldn't want to be put in the position of you have to decide.
Yeah, that is good of you though. Because some people might selfishly just go into that and just, maybe I can convince her that she doesn't want kids. And that's not fair.
And that's not fair.
No, it's not.
If someone is dead set on having kids, they're dead set on having kids, and let them live their life.
So out of interest, do you have on your profile don't want kids?
I have not sure.
Okay, fair enough.
Purely because, again,
you're not sure.
The honest truth is I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. But I think, like, just on that, I think that it is extremely important to be transparent about your decision on that when first starting talking to someone. I think with any situation where you first start talking or first start dating someone, I think you do have to be quite open and transparent about what your intentions are, what you do and don't want from life.
Yeah.
Because if you are dead set on I don't want kids and that person is dead set on I do want kids, and you don't have that conversation until 6 months in, let's say you've fallen for each other, you've slept together, you started building a life, whatever it might be, and then all of a sudden you go, oh yeah, I don't want kids, and she's like, what? Like, that's a conversation that does not end well for both parties. No.
Like you've got to be transparent about it. I think that's with any relationship or anything you go into, you have to be transparent. But like, I think for me, the be all and end all sort of for me is the fact that this world is not something I want to raise children in. B, I don't have the funds to afford children.
True, right,
and I think that is one of the biggest things that people don't think about before having kids.
That's very true.
And again, that is just my opinion, and there may well be people out there that have gone, well, I thought about my finances beforehand, and yet more power to you, good on you, like, well done, because a lot of people don't. There are a lot of people in this world that unfortunately will have children and worry about the financial situation later, and that is the wrong way round.
Yeah.
In my honest opinion, that is the wrong way round.
Yeah.
Accidents happen, fair enough.
Yeah, of course. But
if you intentionally go on to have a kid without thinking about your finances, that is not the right way to go about it.
It's interesting because one of the things that we're going to talk about in a future episode a bit further down the line is kind of the way the education system is and how that teaches young people to do the things or lack thereof of doing things in
I don't know how to do my taxes.
Yeah, like real world stuff you don't get taught at school. And obviously we have sex ed at school, right?
Yeah.
But to me, I don't think, apart from obviously conversations you have with your parents and with older people,
God, the talk.
Yeah, the talk. Yeah, I don't. Apart from that, I don't think you have enough education on the financial and social impacts of having a child.
No.
And therefore, people go out and you're teenager, you're all excited to be with someone, whatever. You end up sleeping with them, and you don't use the right protection, or accidents happen, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you get yourself into like a teen pregnancy or something like that. And again, more power to the people that make it work. Yeah. But if you get yourself into that situation, you've not had the correct education, I feel like someone has failed you.
Oh, God, yeah. 100%. Like, if you don't... So this is from... And again, I'm not a parent, so I can't really speak on it from an actual, like, this is my experience. But if you don't teach your children protection... and the consequences of people's actions. Yeah. That's the biggest thing these days that I think people are lacking, is the understanding of the consequence. Every action has a consequence. And if you do something messed up, you're going to have a bad time because the consequences will come and bite you.
Yeah.
Like, that is one of the biggest things I think these days that people don't think about when they have kids.
Mm-hmm. It's taking accountability.
It's taking accountability. Decision. Like, for me, where I'm in that position of I don't know, but I kind of do know, you get what I mean? I kind of don't want kids, but I am still thinking, like, maybe if I was in the right position financially with the right partner, that maybe that would change. That, you know, you have a level of responsibility there.
Yeah.
To do right by the little human that you're I guess in control of.
Yeah.
And teaching them the right thing. Consequence has to be taught.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I remember I put my hand on the radiator. So and it was a little tap, but I got a little tap.
Mm-hmm. And
because I was a little kid, like that little tap felt like it was like someone smacking me.
Yeah.
So I knew
that's not the
radiator pain.
Yeah,
don't do that.
Don't do that. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that is the way that parents should teach their kids.
No.
To understand consequence, but there is an element of, if you explain that from that example, this equals pain, they're not going to do it again.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's like in relationships and stuff like that. If you have a bad relationship, you experience the pain of that relationship, but you also experience the learning of, okay, now I know what to look for or what not to look for. And I think that is one of the big things with kids. And again, forgive me because I'm not an I was about to say I'm not an adult.
Debatable.
Debatable. Forgive me because I'm not a parent, and I do not know the stresses of parenthood, and I can imagine they are large and quite tough to navigate.
Indeed.
But there is an element of there are a lot of kids out there these days that don't know consequence.
Yeah.
And that just think they're untouchable.
Yeah. And I think it's probably wise to think about the fact that you shouldn't rush into these decisions just because of these circumstances. Like, I think a big part of the problem now with the whole home ownership thing, that's getting later in life because of the financial situation and so on, and that means kids are getting later in life. Obviously, for men, it's not so much of an issue, but for women, they kind of have a bit more of an age concern when it comes to having children. Obviously, after a certain age, it becomes a little bit more difficult to have children, or more dangerous to have children.
It's the body clock conversation.
Yeah. And obviously that's probably quite difficult for a lot of people out there, because they're then worried that if let's say we're getting to 30 and there's someone who's like, I want 3-4 kids, they might be then looking at nearly 40 before they have their last child, and that might be of great concern to them. So that's something I think that is that makes it more difficult as well is because then someone's thinking, I need to settle down now. I need to settle.
And I think it comes down to it. We come back to it. I think near enough every episode, talking to each other. Communication.
Yeah.
Communication is key.
Yeah.
If you don't communicate, look, this is how I feel. If you're not ready for this,
it's funny. We come back to that every time, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah. Because the thing is, like, if someone has not signed up for something, in my opinion, you should be able to give them an out.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
I did it, and I think that was only right by the person that I was with at the time.
Fair enough.
Didn't sign up for it. Absolutely okay to walk away.
Yeah.
Because, I think I can't remember if I said it last episode, but I'm not going to hold someone back from achieving what they want to achieve, because whatever is going on with me is forcing them to hold themselves back. Because in my opinion, that's not okay. Everyone deserves a chance to do what they love and do what they want to do and achieve the greatness that they are destined to achieve.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone, regardless of whether you're the person's partner, relationship, whatever, don't think anyone should hold anyone back.
No.
You've got to stumble and fall. You've got to stumble and fall to get up and know, cool, here's what I don't do, here's what I do next time. Failure is key in everything. You have to fail in order to learn how to succeed.
Yeah. I think people who aren't good at something first try are more likely to quit on that. And I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think the right thing to do is to think about the fact that, I might not be great at that, but that's because it is my first try.
It can almost feel
get better.
Insurmountable when you fail, but you've got to know that you are capable of great things. You are capable of incredible things. And it's important not to think that because you failed that you are a failure. You are not a failure.
Yeah.
You have never been a failure and you never will be a failure. Because you have failed does not make you a failure.
Yeah.
It means that you have learned.
Yeah.
You've not failed, you've learned. And I think if people think about it that way, it changes that dynamic from a negative into a positive immediately. Because you're not thinking, failure is a very negative word. Learning, it's debatable whether it's positive or not, but learning is a more positive spin on that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think regardless of where you are in life, I think like almost everyone who is listening to this will be able to resonate with part of what we've said, whether it be the having kids debate or whether it be the housing, not being affordable right now, because anyone who's under 35 is susceptible to that battle. And I think it's something that we have just learned as a society to accept.
I thought I'd own my own house now.
Yeah,
I'm nearly 30. I thought I'd own my own house
now. And to be fair, maybe I would if I still had a partner, but that's not where I'm at right now. So therefore, it is what it is, right? It's the way it goes.
The way it goes. That's 2 in this episode. That's great. We might not have to say one next episode.
Oh no, we're cramming it in. We're always cramming it. So let's go to a dilemma, shall we?
Yes.
Let's do it. So this is your turn, but you didn't have one lined up this episode, so I'm just going to pluck another one that I found on Reddit.
Ryan was unprepared. Go figure.
Ryan was unavailable for comment at the time. So this is quite a long one, but I'm going to try and just squidge it down a little bit. So the headline is, I've been making large anonymous donations to someone's fundraising page, hoping they think it's multiple people. Am I in the wrong? So I know someone and they have a cause that they're very passionate about. They've got social media pages associated with it, and it's something that has affected them personally very greatly. The thing is, nobody else really seems that bothered about it. It's kind of a niche issue. The social media pages don't have many follows. The regular posts don't get a lot of likes or comments, but they still keep going, and it kind of breaks my heart a little bit. Every year they do a charity walk to raise money for charity associated with this cause. They set a fairly low target and post it up over the course of a couple of months, but still only get around 4 to 5 people contributing. Again, this pains me to see. This year, I've anonymously donated to their walk fundraising page right away. Over the course of the next few weeks, I could see that only a couple of more people donated. So I made up flyers, pins and collection boxes for the charity and put them up all over my workplace and approached people and asked if they would donate. Over the course of a couple of weeks, I raised and collected hundreds, which again I anonymously donated to the person's fundraising page. Since then, I've also made a few anonymous donations of my own money. I don't think there's a way that they can find out it's me, and I don't want them to. I want them to think and feel that there are lots more people supporting them and caring about their cause. This is in the back of my head. I'm worried if they did find out it was mostly me, it would hurt them. Plus, I'm someone who values honesty, truthfulness, openness and integrity. I'm finding this whole thing very hard. I feel it's for the greater good, but it also still feels sneaky. Am I right in what I'm doing?
Yes and no.
Talk to me.
Yes, in the sense that you're donating to a good cause. There's never anything wrong about that.
100%.
You said that you don't want to lie, and yet you're lying.
Classic.
So I think in that situation, you should always come clean.
Yeah.
It's always a case of you don't sit, because the thing is, that person could see your name pop up. And if you know them personally, they could see your name pop up with all these donations and go, thank you so much for that. But because you're doing it anonymously, they begin to get a false sense of how well they're doing.
True.
You have now impacted their growth.
Yeah.
Because they think they are bigger than what they are.
True.
That, if found out, can be a huge negative detriment to the point where they could just quit.
Yeah, that's very true.
They could just quit because I thought this was doing more.
Thought it was going really well.
I thought it was doing more. But, on the other hand to that, like I said at the beginning, it is never a bad thing to donate to good causes.
True.
So ultimately, what they're doing, yes, is good because it is donating to a good cause. But to that person specifically, no, it's wrong. Be honest. Always be honest.
Yeah, I do agree. My only spin on it that's kind of maybe playing devil's advocate a little bit is there was a bit in there where he talks about how he's done the fundraising within his own workplace. And effectively, from his point of view, I guess what he's seeing is that those donations are from multiple different anonymous people. It's still difficult because he's gone out of his way to do that, and the other person hasn't contributed to gaining those donations. Obviously, it's nothing to do with the original person's posts or social media that they're getting those hits and those follows. But as we know, it's difficult to grow a social media page from zero. Yeah. And especially if it's something that not everyone is too keen on. And fundraising specifically is very difficult, and often it is easier. We had at work a breast cancer awareness one recently where we had like a cake sale and everyone brought cakes in and there was loads of donations in it. Now, if someone had sent me a link to a breast cancer donation page, I probably would be less likely to donate to it just because it's a random thing that someone sent me.
And I think it's that internet safety thing.
Yeah.
You're sent a random link, you immediately think, oh, that's a bit sus.
Yeah, but not even...
when it's perfectly harmless. And the thing for me is, I get what you're saying, but there's nothing stopping them from going, hey, I went around my workplace and got these donations.
Very true.
This is from me
very true.
And my workplace. Here's the money.
Yeah, very true. That would be the more honest way of doing it.
Yeah. There's nothing stopping. I think the hardest thing for me to understand from that whole piece is there's nothing stopping them from saying, hey, I'm donating.
No.
And I don't understand why they've lied from the very beginning.
Yeah, it seems as though he's really keen to push this guy's ego to make it like you're doing well, keep going.
More so than actually helping them.
Yeah, and yeah, that might be motivating that person to, oh, look at all these donations coming in, like, let's keep going because it's for a great cause. But like you said, also it could be to the detriment, because if they were to find out about that, they might just quit and say, well, it clearly wasn't working then. If someone had to charity me and pity me,
yeah,
to get it
that
to work.
can have a really negative impact. And I'm one of these people with the cheesy line, honesty is the best policy, because it really is. If you're not honest, you know, you're ultimately going to hurt someone. You're ultimately just going to make someone upset because you're not being honest. And that, for me, there is no reason they have to lie.
No.
Ultimately, they are doing a good thing by donating to a charity.
Yeah.
Fine. But on a personal level, no.
Yeah. I pretty much agree. I think it comes from a good place. I think just really trying to help.
I think it comes from a good place, but
I can see why he feels guilty.
It's a funny way of showing it.
It is, yeah.
It is
right.
a funny way of showing it.
Yeah, honesty is the best policy.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, that's quite a simple dilemma, really. But like, it's one of them ones where it is such a moral dilemma, because it's like someone's trying to do a good thing, but they're maybe going about it in the wrong way.
It's one of those things where, like, it's like I said, ultimately donating to a charity really good, but you're having now this internal debate of, I didn't tell them it was me, but now I've gone too far, and now it's gone on for too long. I can't tell them that it was me. And in fairness, in that situation, no, I would say at this point it's too far gone. But it is one of those things where just be honest from the beginning. Like, what is the harm? Like, the thing I will always tell people is be honest with me, even if it hurts me. Because I would rather people be honest with me and let me deal with that hurt or whatever it is, than be lied to consistently and then find out the truth.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Like, just be honest with people. Jesus Christ, is it hard? Is it that hard?
Yeah, it's
really not.
It really shouldn't
it's really not. Like, you might hurt someone's feelings, but ultimately they will heal from that experience.
Yeah.
And they'll learn from that experience. And you never know. You might even become closer because of that, because you have stood up and you have called your friend and called your friend or relation or whatever. You've called them out and you've said, hey, you know, really simple one. You smell a little bit today. Like, really simple.
Ryan, no.
Yeah, Dan, God blimey, you stink. Like, it really simple one, but you then give that person the opportunity to go put some deodorant on. Yeah,
I get you.
If you get what I mean. Yeah. Like, you then give that person that opportunity to correct that and make themselves feel better.
Sometimes you have to be cruel to be kind.
Exactly that.
Yeah. So that moves us nicely on to our quote of the day. This is one that we found on our lunch break when we was filming today. And I think this is a really good one to end this episode specifically on. I think it ties in quite nicely. And that is that encouraging someone to be entirely themselves is the loudest way to love them.
100%.
Yeah.
Without the encouragement of my friends, I would not be the person that I am today.
100%.
And I have never been happier with myself, I guess, is the way I'd probably phrase it, than I have been. Like, I've never been happier with myself than I am now because of that advice, because of that encouragement, and because of the constant, you know, backing of my friends.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't be me otherwise.
I think growing up, there's a constant need to fit in wherever you go, and you want to squeeze yourself into a little box.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, in terms of like people expressing themselves in different way, whether that be, you know, what they want to do with their lives, whether that be their sexuality or their gender or you know, all these different things that people associate with. I think a lot of people don't sort of come out about those things until later in life because they feel like they need to be compartmentalized in one of those boxes.
Yeah.
And I think that this is...
Make your own box.
Yeah, like this is...
Make your own box.
You don't need to fit into a box.
You don't need
you
to
are
fit
your own
into
person.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And what you should be doing is you should be filling your life with people who encourage you to just be you.
Yeah.
As long as you're doing good things and being a good person, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be encouraged to be you and do what you want to do.
Oh, God, yeah. Don't limit yourself by branding, by labels. You are you. And be you. Just don't let people label you. Don't let people tell you what you are.
No.
You know what you are. You are the only person that knows what you are.
Yeah.
And in knowing that, that's the biggest strength of all.
Yeah.
Because no one can take that away from you.
And also, if you're getting into a new relationship or a new friendship, it's so important not to change yourself to fit that other person.
And that's so hard to do, but you have to do it.
It is hard to do, and sometimes you will want to do that just so that you can build bridges with that person, and you can really help fit with that person and gel with them. But at the same time, if you are going to spend a lot of time with them and you want to have true love and true value in that friendship, relationship, whatever, then you really need to be able to be your authentic self.
And they need to understand your likes, dislikes, and just be honest with each other. Whether that be friendships, relationships, parents, just be honest with each other and love.
Yeah,
it's really simple. Just love.
Yeah, and if you encourage someone to be them, that is definitely such a great way of loving them.
Yeah,
because even if you can't be there for them day in, day out, just supporting people and showing up for them when they need you,
just
half the battle.
If someone's going through a rough patch, validate their feelings. Mm-hmm. Let them know that it's okay. Regardless of what the rough patch is, it is okay to feel that way, and encourage them to, in instances where I guess bad relationships where you feel like you've reserved parts of yourself, encourage them to bring those parts out again and to claim back what was theirs, because that's the biggest thing. If you've been in, let's say for instance, a toxic relationship where you've not been able to do some of the things that you enjoy, being able to claim that back is the biggest middle finger.
Yeah, and you know what?
Biggest middle finger to the person.
Witnessing that as well.
Yeah.
Witnessing someone transform back into their former self is gold.
Yeah, honestly, it makes me so happy.
Yeah.
See someone claiming themselves back. And being like, no, I'm not gonna let you walk all over me.
Yeah.
This is me. This is who I am. You don't get to decide that.
Yeah, and the right person will accept you, warts and all.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
God, yeah.
Yeah, and that goes for any sort of friendship relationship. It's not just, your partner. It could be even friends. The right people will support you in the right ways. And we've harped on about this every episode as well, is that surround yourself with friends who constantly encourage you to do the things you love.
And that hold you accountable.
And hold you accountable when you're messing up.
When you're being a bit of a dick.
You need
get
feedback
people
both
to hold
ways.
you accountable.
Yeah, you need feedback both ways.
Exactly.
And
yes, men are not the right way to go about friendships.
No, you don't want someone who's going to hype you up even when you're being a twat.
Yeah, God.
That's not ideal.
That's how we get silly people.
Exactly.
We don't need silly people.
We don't need silly people. And that's, I think, how we've bonded so well over the years, is because we've always held each other accountable.
God, yeah.
And, if one of us has done something that we considered not the right move, or that we think is just, not
if
practical,
I think you've messed up, I'm going to tell you you've messed up.
Will. And I appreciate that, because, like you say, that helps me grow.
And equally so, if I've messed up, I appreciate it when you tell me I've messed up.
Exactly, yeah. So that's where we're going to leave it today, guys. Thank you so much again for tuning in to the Way It Goes podcast. We've had such a blast filming this so far. Obviously now episode 5.
That's crazy.
Yeah, episode 5. How cool is that? Again,
that's one hand.
That's one. Imagine when we get to 2.
I'm sorry, that's going to peak. Oh, I'm really sorry.
Peak. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, listeners.
Yeah, so it's been awesome. I feel like we always come out of this feeling great, And you know, whether that's a serious topic we've talked about, whether that's a laugh that we've had, I hope that it's coming across that this is genuinely us. This is our lives. This is experiences that we've been through, and we want to share those and help other people. And you know, I know sometimes we border on too serious. Maybe we could have a bit more of a laugh sometimes.
I think,
but
yeah.
you know, it's just one of those things, isn't it? Like some of these topics people don't talk about, and we could go online and find any old comedy podcast, and I do enjoy a lot of them. But I think to actually be able to discuss things that are resonating with people in our age bracket is super important right now.
Again, a very important thing that I stressed in the last video: we're not experts.
Absolutely not. We're just two idiots sitting on a sofa, having a laugh, talking about life.
In the freezing cold.
It is kind of cold in here now.
I'm chilly.
Yeah, it's a little bit cold. It's getting
chilly.
late though, isn't it? So, we digress. Thank you guys for watching. Please, or listening, please give us your comments. Please let us know the would you rather.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know anything you'd like us to discuss in the future, or any suggestions in terms of topics that you'd like us to discuss. We really appreciate the feedback. And that about wraps it up.
That's just the way it goes.
Yeah, sometimes in life, that is just the way it goes.
That's the way of the road.
Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.